Buonasera a tutti e benvenuti al RIBA. Grazie di essere con noi stasera. And no worries, the rest will be in English. Thank you all for joining us. I am Angela Vinci, Head of Exhibitions and Public Programs, and I'm very happy to welcome you and open tonight's talk. This evening's talk is part of the RIBA+VitrA series, and we are grateful to continue this partnership with 2024 as the 6th consecutive year. Over the years, we have explored a wide range of topics, projects, and innovative ideas about the ways people are rethinking the relationship between the built environment and society. The program has seen a diverse range of thought-provoking lectures and discussions, and featuring emerging as well as established national and international voices within architecture. Our partnership with VitrA reflects a shared commitment to add social, economic, and cultural value to society and inspire audiences everywhere. This year's series, Challenge, Rethink, invites leading and emerging figures to share their journey of challenging expectations, rethinking traditions, and considering architecture without boundaries. And together, we explore architecture as a catalyst for positive urban and social change. These events, for us, bear a call to action for architects to be agents of change, recognizing the role that architects have in reshaping our future to create a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable society. This evening, we will continue this conversation, and we are delighted to welcome Mario Cucinella to deliver the keynote address. Mario Cucinella is the founder and creative director of MCA, Mario Cucinella Architects, an international design firm based in Bologna and Milan, specializing in research-based architectural design with a focus on sustainability. In 2015, they founded SOS, School of Sustainability, a postgraduate training center dedicated to educating professionals in the field of sustainability. The impact and importance of Cucinella's work as an architect and educator has been recognized with the International Fellowship of the Royal Institute of British Architects in 2016 and the Honorary Fellowship of the American Institute of Architects in 2017. In 2021, Cucinella and MCA participated in COP26 in Glasgow with TECLA, Technology and Clay Dwelling Prototype, displayed in the Build Better Now exhibition. Mario Cucinella is the author of highly regarded books such as Building Green Futures and The Future is a Journey to the Past, 10 Stories about Architecture, an insightful and lovely book I am fortunate to have received from Mario. Both books are available from the RIBA bookshop. MCA has completed projects in Italy and internationally, and these include the ARPE headquarters for the Regional Agency for Prevention, Environment and Energy in Ferrara, the La Balena Nursery School in Emilia-Romagna, One Airport Square in Accra, Ghana, the Sino-Italian Ecological and Energy-Efficient Building in Beijing, the Santa Maria Goretti Church in Calabria, and the Fondazione Luigi Rovati Art Museum and Etruscan Gallery in Milano. This year's completions include the new Unipol Tower in Milano, and recently the practice was appointed to design the new hospital of Cremona in the Lombardy region. The studio has also been selected to design the Italian pavilion for Expo 25 in Osaka. Tonight, we will hear of Mario's approach to sustainability in some of these examples, followed by a conversation and the possibility for you to ask your own questions. And it will be chaired by Samta Nadim, Curatorial Director at STIR, the global media house and curatorial agency. A design curator and journalist based in London, Samta has a keen perspective on creative cultures and their contemporary complexities. She's passionate about engaging with issues of social and environmental justice through design and discourse. I would also like to thank our BSL interpreters, Amy and Dee, for joining us tonight to make our talks more and more inclusive. Thank you. So before we invite Mario to the stage, please welcome Gökçe Ersel Otkun, Head of Sustainability at VitrA Bathrooms, to tell us a little bit more about our partnership. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Hello, everyone. So we are super excited to have you all here, and thank you for the great introduction. So I will keep it short so that we will listen more from Mario and Santa. I'm the head of sustainability for VitrA Bathrooms. For those who doesn't know VitrA, we are the designer and manufacturer of bathroom products, all bathroom products you can see in your bathrooms. We are a Turkish company. Our manufacturer is based in Turkey, but we have sales almost to 100 different countries. And for us, I can just conclude with that. For us, the sustainability is rethinking how we do our business. So we really want to change how we do the business, and we want to change how we look at the architectural products in VitrA. This is why we are based in our approach in people, product, and production. So we have huge projects in each pillar, and I will be happy to share more after our meeting. But one of our recent contribution is our recycled wash basin. You can see the video behind you, and you can hear the story behind it. So this is why we are super happy to be part of this sustainability-related topic as well. And to give the words to Mario, we welcome you again for this amazing talk. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thanks to RIBA and VitrA for this opportunity to be here, share with you our work. And I will go through some key words because we analyze our work, and I think it was very important to find some key words to define the value of the office. You know, one of these is imagine a world where beauty is soulful and sustainable. I try to show it through the work what for us is the idea of sustainability. A very large view. It's not only technical, it's not about performance, it's about an holistic point of view of sustainability. Well, design for life and you design for beauty. And I think I still have in my mind for the beginning that we design building for the others. And I think we need to be very careful. You know, I always say that architects are very dangerous people because they're using a very powerful material. No? Material is space, you know, and then you can influence people, you can make beautiful things, you can make a nightmare. So you need to be very careful the level of your social responsibility when design building for the others. And this is, I will show you later, is an intervention in a small city in Tuscany. And then also the question is, what does an architect do now? No, it's not only about answer a question from a client. You know, it's not only I wanted these buildings, but we become very, in some way, the office is a change for for all architects. But exploring and explorers and interpreters, you know, we need to, in some way, exploring other kind of knowledge inside of the office. Now we are researchers and storytellers. Is one part of our work is also to tell stories to people, you know, to explaining our project and give the interpretation of the work. But also the analyst and artisan. I'm still in I'm a generation between no-native and native digital. No, we're just in the middle. I came from my culture. I still remember when I started to work, we are working with the pen, with no computers. No? In 1992, there was really few, you know? And then we was able to change thanks to the generation of native, no? But we still do a lot of things by hand, you know? And I think this is a value. Of course, it's not competing against digital, but I think when we do models, you know, we have a model makers in the office. When you do models, it's different than see a picture on the screen, and I think this is really part of the process of learning by ourselves. do things, watching behind. And that is the artisan part of our work, you know. And then I think it is a really key word, practice creativity with empathy. For me, that is really the definition of what sustainability means, because there are two really important words, one, the creativity and empathy. I think empathy is an attitude. No? We are empathic with place, we are empathic with people, we try to understand the others. It's typical of doctors, try to understand the sickness of people and try to imagine what they're thinking. But you can say empathy is also to understand a place where you design your buildings, you know? Try to understand data, to understand the opportunity, what that connection. You know? And this is my heritage from Giancarlo De Carlo, who was my professor in school, you know? And then he was a gold medal here years ago, because he really teaching us to reading the place before make any drawing, reading the place, try to understand where you are, you know? And then put your creativity. So creativity and empathy mean you need empathy, and if you don't have empathy, creativity can be extravaganza, can be something very nice, but not connected. And I think this, the balance between the two words, for me, is what I'm feeling is sustainability, you know? And that was a kindergarten, which I show you later. And then sustainability from every angle. I mean, of course, it's about performance, it's about material, it's many things, but in the specific, if you're watching this photo is taken in Ghana. This is a building we made in Accra. And this photo is taken 21st of June. No? Then the one thing you can see from this picture is all the buildings under shade. No? Because the sun in the tropical area is go fast up, then stay vertical all the time, and they go down very quick. So the point is the sun in your head, you know? And the middle temperature, you know, between the 6 or 7 months, the temperature of the air is good. The sun is hot, but temperature of the air is good. So if I design the building is under shade all the time, you know, I was able to open the window and make a cross ventilation, especially in a country where the energy costs the same in Europe because it's made by oil. So sustainability in this case is how you design the buildings, not which kind of technology you put in. And I'm still convinced that the sustainability is really about the design, how you design the building, how you design properly in relating of this context. Can be climate, can be social, can be related to other buildings. And also because it's a tropical area, it's raining very strongly. The cantilever terrace, you know, you make this building when it's raining a lot, like a fountain, so the water is going out of the buildings. And inside is an open air courtyard for the ventilation. You know. You don't see all these things there, but when you live in the building, you get a feeling of that. You know. And also what is defining beauty for our time? You know, define beauty is very difficult because change in time is related to our culture. No? Something nice 30 years ago, maybe we look and say, oh, I was considering beauty that, no, it's changed. And I like the idea that we talk about beauty in a different way. And beauty, this is the project I will show you later, is the RIBA is the Agency for Environmental Protection. It's made by 120 chimney. And then I think the beauty in our time is also the way buildings work. You know? In this case, it's ventilated, it's daylighting, the way the people enjoy the well-being inside the building. It's not only an aesthetic point of view, it's also the way people living inside of the building. And also the building is a story we tell to each other. You know? And then I discovered myself in the last years, then I talk a lot. You know, I'm working a lot, but also I talk a lot, make a speech and talk to people, make an interview. I think we need to tell stories about buildings. And this was a very particular building because we did in an earthquake area in Emilia-Romagna that was made 5 years ago. And then this is a music school. So every cylinder is an instrument. So one is a piano, one is a violin, one is a guitar. And it's made for the school, but this place is open also after school. You know? And then because it was quite well made, and then the people around building are not very good, you know, and say, well, we can't keep in our building so bad, so we're painting the buildings. And then the city said, oh, maybe we put the grass and we made a garden. Then another company said, well, I can help you to make more trees. So in a certain moment, building is contaminating others to make a better place. You know? And then, because it's open also in the afternoon and there are people teaching there, you know, it's interesting. As you know, our region is famous for many singers and many bands. You know? And then maybe this building helped to find a new stars, you know, a new rock star. But you need to do it and open to the community. You know? And then this final question is, what transforming a building into a place that sustains life and spirit? This is a church, and that's why I put spirit, but it's also interesting to see, you know, how much important are buildings for sustainable life. You know, I think this is what I like more than when we do schools, you know, because you feel then your work is very useful for people. You know. I'm always say, building like school, they don't move, but they remain in the memory, travel in the memory for years and years, you know. And the memory can be good, can be bad, can be transform yourself because you get some inspiration. And I want to just give you some data, and then I go to the project. So this is the timeline of what we call sustainability, starting in 1991 in Germany with the Passive House. No, then the Kyoto Protocol. Then you see every year the United Nations Conference, you know, was promoting the climate change. You know. Then COP15 in Copenhagen. Then you remember also COP21 in Paris. You know, one of the results of COP21 in Paris, where there was agreement about energy and many other agreements between government. But the key point of that conference, do you remember all the government, all the prime minister, they get the hand together. The main goal of that conference was we don't make war for energy. It was almost a sort of a peace agreement, don't fighting for energy. Well, they're not keeping that as a premise because you know what's happened in the last few years, but I think they're connecting the idea of energy and sustainability related to war, to rating how you're using primary materials and energy around the world. And then many other Friday for Future, then Francis Pope writing an amazing book called Laudato Si. Whatever is Catholics, and forget for religion for a second, but that book is really a statement, very strong statement about poverty. You know? And it's not only about the poverty, economical poverty, it's not only about the food poverty, it's about building poverty. The people in bad building, they're going to suffer more in the next years because the poverty of the fabrics of buildings, the poverty, they're not dealing with climate, you know. Then UK target, I putting as information about 2030. And I think we have a very, very ambitious plan for 2030, 2050, reducing 80% of our emission. Then we still, I mean, it's a very ambitious plan. Then I think we try to understand how to do it because, like in Italy, there are 12 million buildings. In France, there are 25 million buildings, so existing buildings. So it's a huge amount of work to how to, especially for the stock market, the stock building in the last 40 years, they need to be working on. So there'll be a lot of work also for the aesthetical point of view and how we can change the quality of buildings in terms of urban scenography. You know. Just to share what is the numbers about the CO2 emission, because we talk a lot, but you can see when England is there, and the European is weighting 7.3% of our total emission of the world. And then you can see if China, Russia, US, India, they're really, really big. So I think it's not important that we are very small in terms of emission. No, England is only 1% and Europe is 7%. But the only country that we can do some change and promoting change for other countries is really Europe. That's why it's important that we do researching and do example, because then will be transferred to other countries. No? And then I put also for Italy, so that's the emission is 427 million tons against 18 million tons absorbed by forests in England, or Great Britain here, so UK. You know. In Italy, it's a little bit not the same, it's 450 against 45. So I just put in this number because I think we try to find solution by using greenery, to compensating, but the numbers, they're so great. We can't solve the problems of emission by planting trees. Planting trees is a solution to make our life better in the city, but that's not enough if we don't decide to reduce that number. And I feel we are not, in this moment, everywhere, we are not ready to reduce our demand. We try to find solution to keeping CO2, but we are not able to do reducing our demand. So that will be a key political problem for the next generation. And then just to give and then I will talk about project, but just to give you some information about the life of the building in 30 years. This is a kind of a benchmark, but we always talk about performance. In the last few years, we say we was able to reduce the performance of building in terms of cooling and heating and lighting quite dramatically. For, I say, 1980 was an office was maybe 500 kilowatts per square meter for years, and now we can have building class A 36 kilowatts per square meter for year. Housing can be, the last project we did in France is 7 kilowatts per square meters per year. So we're able to really make better and better buildings, but the point is half of the emission is about construction and material. So the key point for the next years is not only about performance, but how we're using new generation of material, recycling material, how we design building where we reduce the impact of building construction. So I think it's a very interesting moment because this amazing challenger is a challenge how we design better building, how we can use different material, how we can reduce the impact of building in the city, and how we can make building for people make people more happy. So what I'm saying. So, as mentioned before, I write it as a little book. I don't put that because you need to buy, for sure. But I'm saying you must be curious to read that book. I'm not a writer, but during the COVID, I was thinking to make my like a sabbatic 6 months travel, as every architect dreamed to do it. Now then, COVID killing all this dream, and then I write a book about 10 stories of architecture, building I saw in different time in my life, and I try to put it together. But why I write that book is because the goal we have in front of us is reducing dramatically the emission, which is mean designing different buildings. And then I question myself, but how we did before the Industrial Revolution, how we design building with no energy. So maybe what we look in the future is sometimes we need a mirror to looking back, not to make exactly the same building, but the knowledge is behind us, because we was able to design building with no energy at all. So there are different examples, and I was thank Brian is here. Then suggest me one is the Jackal, the House of Ice in Iran, and it's a beautiful story. I'm not going to tell you, you can read in the book, about Marco Polo traveling from China to Constantinople, Istanbul, and stopping, and in the desert the people offered to him an ice cream. That was a 14th century. How the Persian people was able to make an ice cream in the middle of the desert. If you buy the book, you find the solutions. I'm not going to tell you that. And then Galileo Galilei house, the Palladian house, how the people refreshing themselves in buildings, or Pakistani buildings, or Chinese. So there are so many examples of adaptation of building and climate, and we need to discover again, not to make exactly the same, but maybe the knowledge is there, and we can use that knowledge to make our building for the future. Another inspiration is plant. So all of you know this kind of a professor called Stefano Mancuso, which I advise you to watch in his experiment about plants. He said for the first time the intelligence of plants. Plants are intelligent. It's different intelligence, not like a brain, but they are something. And because plants are in the planet for 450 million years, that's the life of plants. Homo sapiens, 300,000 years. So the gap between us and plant is 450 million years. And they're adapting to different climate. You find plants everywhere. And I was looking some plants, and if you look in this plant, everybody knows that, no? Is living in a very dry context, no rain, and the shape is like a bubble, which is not all the time under the sun. The leaves are triangular, which mean when the sun turns, part of the leaves is under shade. We mean between the leaves is different temperature, and that creating a ventilation in the plant. So the plant is not suffocating by sun, and the top is very white because it's the place where the sun is most strong and reflecting the light, so it doesn't absorb. The spine, of course, the spine is avoiding animals eating the juicy plant, but the spine is, they take water from the air when they change the temperature, and the little waters in the air condense in the top of the spine, and that drop go inside the plant. How this plant know? How they know? That's the question. How this plant know all these things? And then is an example of adaptation of plants in the very context. We are not do this kind of a thought. We don't think it like this. We did a project in Morocco and then for a campus, no? And the idea was maybe if we do terracotta leaves every floor, we always shading the window and then creating a sort of a light and shade, which is change the temperature in a sort of a microclimate, but also the terracotta absorb water, no? And then give it back when change the temperature, and then creating a sort of a very little microclimate around the facade. Well, that's maybe not enough to make a free-running building, but it's by the shape then you can really modify and make your building more sustainable. So I was discussing with Mancuso about these sketches we did together. So what they have in common, trees and buildings? Well, in common they don't move. Because the difference between us and we can run, but the plants doesn't run, and the trees make so many things. No, it's transforming CO2 in oxygen, creating shading, make fruit. You cut the trees, and then the branches grow again, and create a sort of a humus under. Then the roots, they're going to find exactly what the mineral, and there's example, fantastic experiment then showing in the darkness the roots find exactly what they're looking for. Our building in the last century was a little bit against the climate. No, we want to seal the building. We don't want to know what the climate is outside. We don't want to deal with it because air conditioning was a fantastic invention. No? But we depend for the functioning of the building by machine. It's like us. Now, if you broken your head, you collapse, and the building is almost the same. No? So, if I want to make a parallel, I think we need to work in more in this kind of empathy with climate. Maybe, of course, there's the pollution problems, there are many problems, but if buildings are able to dealing again with climate, we may be able to design a new generation of buildings. Okay, now we're showing some. I hope you're not. The expectations are too high after when I talk to say, I know everything is right, and I show the building and say, well, not possible. So, well, the first thing was Tekla. Tekla is technology and clay, is an experiment to design a house, 3D printing house by using earth, raw earth, mud. And then we say, well, if it's a machine, then maybe the machine is not so important, because it's a mechanical thing. It's about the latitude. So what we said, we say, sorry, it's temporized. And if you're different climate, maybe you design by code, including data, then maybe the code is modify the shape of a building in relation to the climate. And then we make some example. Look the latitude, maybe in a climate hot and dry we do a kind of a shape, but in tropical where the wet you need a ventilator, maybe the building shape. So what we are trying to say is, depending on the climate data, we can design different shape of a building and different size of the wall, and that's Tekla, and what is in Tekla is not about the printer. Printer is a machine. It's about the code, and that's his short video. It's made with a company called Wasp, which is the bees that make the net with the terracotta. Well, this is an experiment. No? I don't want to say this is the future of all houses. That's not, maybe it's not. But I think it's the idea to try to using material like this, because the idea was the agenda. No? If I put in the first level of my agenda zero impact, zero CO2 emission, I don't have too many options. Then the idea was, well, why we don't try to using raw earth like this? And also, maybe for fragile context or in a difficult context, instead to send containers, maybe we send a printer with the computers and we're using natural material on place. Now, that was the ambition of the project. No? And that's is. And then I tell you, when I was inside, when it was finished, that you get really the feeling. I don't know, it's something like in our DNA. You know, it's you're feeling an history of humanities, no? Because we live it in the past in this material, no? Then the body really reacts, and so I get the feeling that body reacts in a different context. And if it's a concrete shell, or if it's in wood, or it's in a raw earth, no? And there's something emotion coming out of this project. Then the latest project I did, we won that competition for a new hospital. Hospital is, I'm not going to explain too much because it's complicated, but it's an hospital in a very small city called Cremona. It's famous for Stradivari violins, maybe you know that place. No? And it's outside of the city, close to the river, so it's a very particular place. But we find the drawing of the riverside, how the river was moving in the past, and we decide to make this. So half is an hospital, and the other half is a service for the hospital, like education and residence for the people visiting, and is a kindergarten, so all these things. But it is also a park. It's a story of hospital in the past, then was designed as a pavilion. So the most important things was the environment around the place, you know, the good air, the fresh air, and the clean air. You know. So that is the idea is a big park, and then the hospital is this kind of a circle one. That's in the context. It's not, doesn't look an hospital, of course, which is good. But then is a little innovation. I mean, there's many innovation in the organization, but I'm not going to tell you because it's too complicated and it takes too much time. But the room, what was changed is we tilted the room. They're not parallel to the corridor, but they move for a very simple reason. One is that you see how much daylighting get in the room, and also how much you see outside of your room, because see what is outside is very important, especially if you see a park, you know, you see greenery. But also, if I use this, the nurse, because it's tilted, the nurse from the corridor can see the people directly, don't need to get inside the room. Looks like a simple things, but on the management of an hospital, this is very, very important point. So tilting the room, moving, then people can see, and they can see outside. So this kind of place, kind of work I like to do, to be careful about how the buildings work for people, not only for the sickened people. It is a 550 bed. There are 1,500 people working every day. So we do the hospital for curing people, but we do also hospital for the people working every day for 10 hours. And it's a very short video. Sorry, it's in Italian, but you can understand it. And then I go quick from a small project in Italy. Italy is the best country in the world. Sorry for the UK, but it's, really it is. But it's a very bad character. No, it's a nice place, but it's very difficult. No, I am working in Italy for many years, but this is an example of what work in Italy means. This is a project we won years and years ago, inspired by the Pakistani wind catcher. And then the building is really about 120 chimney. That's the roof. And the roof providing reduction in terms of cooling by takeaway heating during the day, and also keeping warm by the glass house effect, and then using this warm air inside to heat in the system. Of course, that's not enough to make it zero, But the reduction of demand of energy is reducing the demand, but it's reducing the size of machine. So everything is sizing down. But and that's the building. It's all in wood construction, and was planned to build in 9 months. So it took me 11 years. And I always say, be an architect in Italy. You do a building every 10 years. 3 years and then your career is finished. It's a little bit too much. So unfortunately, we do many projects in the same time, but sometimes it's very, very hard. They asked me before, what characteristic of an architect? What was the best part of an architect? So the patience. I think talent is, well, okay, but patience. You need the patience to waiting and then dealing with contractors. And this is an example of using daylighting with the artificial sky. Of course, you can use in digital radiance and many other projects, but if you do yourself, this is in Torino, Polytechnical sky, artificial sky, and do analysis. I know it's a little bit old-fashioned things, but I tell you, if you do yourself, and you only by using different colors of white but different intensities, is glossy, matte, you see the diagram of daylighting changes dramatically. So you learn by doing yourself, and then you really learn how to dealing with daylighting. Of course, you can see radiance much quicker, but it's different if you do it with your hand. It's a little bit different. But the interesting thing is people don't like to change the office because they are routine, and then we make this. For the first time, we know people complain because the daylighting inside, it was amazing, fantastic. And people working with no artificial light, well, they're on there for the picture, but they don't need it, And we discovered in time what people are looking for in an office building. The first two requests is the quality of daylighting and the quality of the air. Then the space. Well, space is not the first priority, it's how can be well-being inside of a building. And I think this is very important because really is about buildings and people quality of life. Oh, well, that's some pictures of buildings finished. Then I did this. I was so fascinated by those schools. I love to do schools. And this is, Loris Malaguzzi is the inventor of Reggio Children, which is very well known around the world. It is the way you organize kindergarten. And he said the architecture is the third educators. Now you have your family, then you have your teachers, and then you have your buildings. Buildings are educators. No? And Guastalla is the middle of Emilia-Romagna, but I was, as I told in the beginning, I remember my kindergarten. I said, why I remember my kindergarten? And I remember my kindergarten discovery 55 years later was designed by Giuseppe Vaccaro, who was a modernist architect from Bologna, and he made a little asilo, a little kindergarten for 2 classrooms, you know, in the very I would say social housing. You know, I was living in Piacenza, you know, and I still remember the lighting from the sun in this little classroom, and the garden was a wall. The wall was like this because I was like this. You know, there was no a wall of 3 meters. It was small. So I think everything was in proportion. I still remain in my mind. I don't know where, but it just in a moment come up, and I thought again, the buildings, they don't move, but travel in the memory. And they maybe leave you some very nice memory. You know? So I thought about Pinocchio stories, and what catch me was the story of the whale eating Pinocchio, which is a terrible story. You know? You tell to kids, then Pinocchio is a wood baby, then he's eaten by whales. He's disappeared in the whale for 2 years, and his father tried to find him. It's terrifying, you know. And then this picture is beautiful because Geppetto was inside of a whale looking for his son, and then his son saw from far away a little light in the darkness, and he ran. He found his father, then he went out. And that's inspiring me to say, maybe if you go, kids of 0 to 3 years old, you know, it's the time then kids, they create in their imagination. That's really the time, the experience is so important. Then maybe if they thinking to be in a school is inside of an animals or maybe something else, they improving their imagination, you know? And then as Italian story, it's a fantastic, you know. You see that? This is a floor and this is a wall. You know? Okay, it looks simple, no? But I tell you the story. And then what happened in the plain of Italy? What is the landscape? Is the flat, the papier, the plants, the trees, no? That's the rhythm, and then sometimes is a church tower. No? That's what you see when you're traveling. So the repetition of element is really part of your landscape, you know? And that's why we did this. You know? It's a long element in wood. Then the gardens looks like a bird, and then the garden is a part of a pedagogic experience for the kids, you know? And then you see that's under construction, and that's the laboratories, and this is a winter garden. But what I discussed, I built this building in really less than 1 year. They take me 3 months to convince the city hall to approve the project when it was built, because they can't find it in the code. A floor coming a wall, is a wall coming a floor, we can't find it. No? And that was a nightmare, because they want to put me some barrier, some guardrail, because you know, the kids, they may be fighting, they just jumping down off the wall. So it was very complicated. In the end, we agree, say we open. Then we see nobody killing themselves. We keep it like this. And also glass, you know, transparent between. All kids will be like this on the. I say, waiting, baby, like this, they know if they make a mistake. They already know, so don't need to make it signs, birds and things, no? And then we keep in this transparency. It was very good. Then I want to show you this project. I don't have too much time, but I want to keep a little bit fast. You know? I did, because I was interested in school, I was working with UNRWA in Palestine, in Gaza. And I've been visiting Gaza 3 times in my life. And then I visited schools there from UNRWA. You know? And then they do very cheap, $300 for square meters. That's the price of a school in Gaza. You know? And it's making concrete blocks. meaning Gaza is the South Mediterranean weather, so from March until all the summer, until November's temperature is very high. Inside of a school can be 45 degrees, 4 degrees. If you see the curve of learning, temperatures go up and process of learning go down. So why you make school, then people can learn. So and we say, how we can make a school in Khan Yunis? I think there's nothing more in Khan Yunis. It's destroyed everything. And we designed this building with this kind of a big pillars, empty pillar. You know? I'll show the diagram. To create a natural ventilation inside the room. A very, very basic building. I mean, this building costs $350. You know, it doesn't cost more. You know, it's a little courtyard, and but the principle is to using the ground floor, the ground for cooling. That's very old technique. Using the solar chimney to pump the air, so they will be sucked from the ground, go through the classroom, and creating more ventilation to reduce the impact of CO2 emission by the kids. You know, with 35 or 40 kids in a small room, after an hour, they can't breathe, you know, and they're losing attention. You know? And then it was really interesting experience, because what we did is working with the UNRWA in Amman, with all the technical unit, to really improving how we design better school at the same price with a good result in terms of learning. You know? And that's some models. And I remember went to Tel Aviv airport with models, and then there were so nice people. The Israeli was nice. Say, "Well, what is in the model?" I said, "It's a Gaza model." And many of these young people are on army. There are really 18 or 19. They say, "Oh, I'm studying architecture. They're really interesting." I find very good relationship. And then this Filippo Grandi is the secretary of UNRWA in the past, and we just put these trees, and then after 2 years that they're bombing everything, so all these canyons fall down. This was after the cast lead period, and then it was just finished, 800 million investment in houses for that period, and then after 2 years it was bombing again, there's nothing more there. Anyway, and this is the project we just opened next Friday, so I put some pictures in Pacentro. Pacentro is a really small village in the middle of Abruzzo. Only very well known, is a nice place, but because the family of Madonna was born there, so that's why it's known. And then we did a beautiful work with ActionAid about working with the kids. At their school, that was happened after the earthquake, so we designed a school because they closed the school, and we design a new school. And then we asked the kids what they thinking about the school, and kids have so beautiful ideas. You know? First, they want animals everywhere. So kids of 8 or 9 years old, they are not yet urban beings. You know? They are still related to the countryside, and their ambition is greenery to play, animals to be close, you know, watching the sky. But why we don't make a room with an open roof than watching the sky? So they are fantastic things. So I like we work with them. So we did this is the project. It's like a UFO, no? UFO, not just arrive, boom, there. No, it's little things there. No? And because it's in an earthquake area, it's not only a school, it's also a refuge in case of earthquake. So it's designed, and it's a piazza inside, and the families can meet together. And it's a large kitchen also for make family weekend that they can gather together in the school. And instead to make linear, we make a little circle, no? And there is, and then the idea is really a sort of a disc, you know, go around this area, and then is landing in that floor, in this area, and then it becomes a school. Well, I'm not going to explain it, but it's how to transform this place as a library, as an atelier, as a place for recovery in case of earthquake, and can be a piazza for event. It's a so small village, no? And that's not random. This is real. We just make it a few days ago and almost finished. You can see this piazza, no? It's a place where all the kids, they're gathering together. No? And also attention for the environment, the strategies, the roof is all green and not absorbing temperature, collecting water. So all these, I say, standard things. No? And that is the picture. This is a rendering about this kind of a disc landing. And it was quite nice in the night. This little point will be on. So from the village, you can see this disc is somebody living there. And this is another project we just finished in Peccioli. It's a little village in Tuscany. It's not the best Tuscany like Chianti. It's a little bit less famous. But it's a village, interesting. And it's interesting because the money for this project, is a public project, is come from the city invest in the waste area. So they're collecting waste. They make so much money on waste because they're selling, recycling things, and they have a very big budget. And also they provide a photovoltaic field, and then they distribute energy to the people there. During the COVID, the mayor was able to give it to people for the months of COVID, 2,500 euro a month for the people because they share the income of the wasteland. So, it can be a good business, if you do properly, And then we're renovating the building, but what we did is this kind of a bridge, just cantilever on the landscape, and under the bridge is a library and is a co-working as a place for students. And the bridge is, of course, it's just you go in the landscape because it's kind of it's a cantilever, but also that's the space underground and all this connection through the buildings, and also you can watch the city from the bridge. It is a very strange view. They never saw. You go out and you really see the new renovation of this kind of bow windows work. And there's an art center, is a housing for hosting artists, and is a bar, is a restaurant, and a library, and is a bar also. And that's the church. It's a very difficult theme, the church, because it's, in Italy it's the best church in the world, made by famous architects, so it's not easy to compete. Now, I don't want to compete with this, but I'm saying church in a place so far away from everywhere, in the middle of the mountains of Calabria, I tell you this. But then again, an earthquake closed the main church, and the people was afraid that they cannot pray anywhere. So the Vatican make a competition, then we won the competition to make a little church. This not the historical center, this is the Italian stories about I say periferia, not the place, the modern part of the city, which is terrible. And this little church there is a white, and I try to make a little bit help myself to say, well, there are a few churches where I like a lot. San Carlino, le Quattro Fontane, Sant'Andrea al Quirinale. Beautiful example. I take a little piece of geometry and I put it together, and instead to make only a sign, I try to, the geometry remember me the wonderful place I studied when I was a student. And the church is a simple block, and then the cross is because the concrete is moved a little bit. This is a light on, but during the day is the shadow of the sun make the cross. So I think it was a kind of a gentle way to make it. It's a huge door. Then is the parish, then is where they have course, and then the priest living there. And the inside is very simple, It's lime with hemp, just around, and wash, and change a little bit of color. And this ceiling is a 4-meter high opaline area, so the light get inside, it's just booming, It become kind of a diffuse light. Because the theme of a church is a common place where we go with the others, but also is an intimate place where you pray for yourself. So you need to find this balance between be together, but also be alone. And it was a great experience because, is very skeptical about contemporary building, especially the old people. No, they always look in there and they don't like it. So I went to the opening, and this old lady, you are the architect. Sometimes this is a very difficult question. Say, do you want to say, no, I'm not a man, it's not here, no? And then say, yes, I'm the architect. Okay, but this modern thing, you sure is, if we don't like it, it's white like this. I say, well, waiting to be inside, no? And then we bring inside the people, this old lady, and then they like it because they find it again what they're missing, no? What you miss in a church is the contemplation, no? It's the lighting, the silence, the vibrations. And I think this was really interesting in the relation with the community, no? Well, we did many presentations before, but the experience was very, very good, no? And that's the church, no? And I did another very little, I just show you also this very small project to show what is our engagement in terms of social. It's not only about business. This is always on the south. The south is potentially one of the best places to work. The problem is the south. It's not the place. The place is fantastic. But, I'm working with Betty Williams in the Nobel Prize for 1976 about the war between England and Irish, and the north of Ireland. And she was really engaged on the story because, it's a little story, I'll go very fast, but the story is in the south of Italy, Berlusconi government decided to dedicating a place for nuclear waste. And people say no, and then protest. There was a lot of protest to Rome. And then Betty saw the protest on Sky, and then said, I joined this woman about, and then the fighting, Berlusconi decided not to do it, and to give a site to this foundation, and the foundation is dedicating to family with kids. They came for war. They never live in peace. So we designed in a beautiful context of fruit trees in the countryside, very beautiful. We made a little house. It's the first of a series of houses. And she was, what can I say, what impressed me about this lady is the heart. She was the mother of all these kids. And it was absolutely amazing. The way she take care about these people. And we designed this little house, like a little domus, with a little courtyard. It's a 3 apartment. And we thought they living in a peace for at least for 6 months. They're traveling through Italy and then they're moving into another place. But they need a place for a little time to, settle down and then get a little bit peaceful time. And then we designed this little house in the middle of countryside, and it was very simple in wood construction with a little. This looks like flower elements, but they need for shading. And it's all the family they're watching together. Is all looking in the courtyard, and that's the house. And now there are 3 families, and then we are now working for the other houses there. But for me, do this kind of work. It's not about for money, but this is not done. You don't do that for money. You do because your heart. You want to do it. And this as a school also you can really feel what is the civic work we do, how much is important, how much architecture is really important for people, and very, very pleased to do this kind of work. But finally, I did a museum in Milan for families. It's a private museum about Etrurian art. Etruria is Tuscany and Lazio, more or less. But Etrurian is 10th century of civilization before Roman. So we talk about 1,000 years. And they collecting pieces only for a period of time, which is the 1st and the 5th century before Christ. So during this civilization is a period of time where they make a very specific vase they call buccheri because they are black. It's a terracotta black, which is a technique. But how to make a museum, archaeological museum is not very fancy place. I think all of you have experienced to go in an archaeological museum. They're almost very boring place. There's so many pieces. mainly made by specialists. They know every single pieces, but you know, it's very exciting. You know, then you can see 1,000 vases, and then you see 1,000 things, you don't know the stories. So the challenge is how we can make an archaeological museum exciting, you know, to tell the stories of the vase, no? And then I find it very interesting. The culture of Etrurian is made. They made a piece of art object to help people to traveling in another life. No? It was already sort of idea of religions. No? There are another life after death. No? You stop to breathe and then you enter in another life. So for me, that was the sketch I made when I talked with these people. Is a line, then you go from the life in the earth, and then you go in another life. We don't know yet what's happened on the other part, but there are this artistic tension. No? And there are two moments, then you stop to breathe, and then something happens. You know, it's the magical part of the history of humanity. You know? There's some sketches, and then is existing buildings in Milan, a very beautiful context. So we built underground, the archaeological museum underground, but the museum is about a journey in the art. So there's Etrurian art on the ground floor, on the basement, and then it's contemporary art on the main floor. So it's a collection, very different pieces. And then during the work, we decided to make another floor under the foundation, which is make a little bit troubling to do it, just to make our life easy. And then you enter, there's a garden, and you go down, is a museum there, and then, or you go up, in the main floor is all contemporary and mixed art. No? And underground is made by limestones, one material. There are 29,000 pieces of limestones, and then it's all the museum, and it's about these stones. But the stone, they are not touching together. There's a gap of 3 millimeters. So the breathe of the museum is the air coming from the floor and is taken from the stones. So you don't really see any technical things, no grill, nothing. And it's sort of a breathe, you know, the museum is take air and out from this little gap. It's a little detail, but make the difference when you're inside of this space. No? Well, there's a different kind of a layout about the pieces, but then that is the museum. That you don't really see the line, black line is the gap. So they are not touching it, which is mean technically you need to keeping every single stone by myself. You don't touch one each other. So. And it's very fluid, no? It's one space, the stone is all around you, and the exhibitor are like a shark, no? Shard, no? It's very pointy, no? It's like a mineral found in the stones, no? And then the inside it is an exhibition of Etrurian art, but it was mixed with some modern pieces, Lucio Fontana, Marino Marini. So there was a very nice curator which is putting together the idea of flow of history, no? So you can see here is Lucio Fontana. Is a little war about ceramic, and then is another piece of Etrurian. This is a head. So it just gives you, you go inside, is a trip in history, and then not too many pieces, but you explain the rule and the importance of this. I'm finished. I don't see anybody sleeping, so I'm happy. So. And so there are many very beautiful pieces. And this is the last video to show the experience. So this is the house. This is. And you see the garden have this kind of a little dome, because the dome underground is pushing, you know, the garden, and you can really start to see it. And also was a little detail you don't see in that picture, but half of the museum is made by acoustic panels. Is a sponge of glass, and it's covered by plaster made by the same sand of a stone, for a simple reason. Then you go under the dome, is an echo, no? And then you can fill in the whisper with other people. No? But I say I don't want to lose that, because I think it's nice, because you're underground when you walk. I like the idea there's a little, not perfection, which is very difficult to explain to an engineer. I don't want a perfection sound, I want an imperfection, because this is a part of the physical experience of being underground. No? So I'll leave you with these two pictures, which I found it many, many years ago. This is, okay, I say hello to everybody, but you can see another point of view, is this one. This is a doctor, no? And the camel have a GPS antenna in the head. Then it's a photovoltaic panels to put energy for the fridge for the medicine. You know? And then I always like that picture. I find it again after many years, because it's really what we call the balance between using technology and the history of adaptation to climate. No, I think this is I think it's the right balance to say technology is good, but we need to balance the use. No, it's not fully technology. No, and just to finish that, as it was mentioned, we opened in 2015 a school of sustainability, which is mean SOS, and we do a master class for 1 year in the office with the 15 young architects or professionals. Then we, as I say, that we not only design for the next generation, we design with the next generation. It's a collaboration, because we look in future in a different way, and I think we need to listen what this young generation have to say. What we call the next generation EU, but we need to talk with them and see what their ambition and what they think about future. Thank you very much. Please.
That was great. Thank you so much. Go. So, hi, good evening, everyone. Mario, firstly, thank you so much for not just sharing your creativity and your wisdom, but sharing it with such calm. I think for me, I was sitting right in front, and despite how we are currently feeling in the world, I felt really hopeful and calm. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So I really want to start with something. I mean, of course, from your presentation and from the kind of practice that MCA has been doing for the longest time, and I think with the kind of consciousness that we all, at least probably in this room, come from, there is no debate about the fact that we need to build better. But I often wonder, do we really need to build more? And I ask that sitting in London as a city, where we know there is a major housing crisis, but it's not because we don't have enough houses. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, ask an architect not to build is very difficult, but I think we still need buildings. You know, I see the same problems we have in Italy about the access to the first house, you know, and especially access to affordable house. This is really a major problem, because in the last years there was a lot of economy generating by buildings. No? You know, the economy, buildings economy is one of the largest economy, you know, because it's creating a huge amount of richness. No? And I think in the last years, especially, I don't know too much London, but I know what happened in Milan. There was really a pushing to make a lot of buildings, and then what's happened, the cities changed a little bit, no? Because it become not affordable anymore. Because people can't find a house, they can't find rent, they need to go far away, then the people not accept working in Milan because it's too expensive. And I think politicians now, they need to find a balance, you know, how to, using public buildings to reduce this gap between too much speculations and the fact that people can afford. Because if you don't create a sort of a social ecosystem in the city, the risk is to make this kind of a city with only one kind of people there, which is not exactly what I think we need to do, you know. And we can really, as architects, help to do better building, like you said, you know. But I think it's time also to make a more simple building. If you want to do affordable house, you don't make a banana buildings. No, you can't do that. You can make, I think people need a house. I think we can design really properly in buildings, very simple but very useful. No? I like the idea that we design building useful buildings. No? I mean, it looks like stupid to say, but sometimes this basic thing, we need to design building because we need housing, we need new hospital, we need new school. Maybe in the cost of a urban context, maybe we need to demolish and rebuild. You know, maybe we need to change some and use a building more in an intense way. You know, because I think about schools. You know? School are using only for, I say, 5 hours, 6 hours, and then they're closed for another 18 hours. You know? Now the idea is open the school after the teaching time, like open the library, open the space for gym, then open to do families meeting, and maybe don't need to build another building for that. So creating a sort of intensity of use of building, that's what we need before to build more. No? More or less, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And that also takes me to something that you said earlier when we were speaking last month about some of your work in Milan. This whole idea of living together and the idea of a city which is about a life in common. And something that you just said right now about probably using the built structures or the already existing structures for purposes beyond their primary purpose is one of those. But when you imagine a city in the future which kind of holds the ethos of a life in common, what do you imagine?
Wow, that's a question. Well, what can I imagine is, I think there is a desire, especially after the COVID, is a more and more desire to sharing space in the city, you know. And I think the demand of people, I say in many cities around the world, is increasing the quality of the public spaces. That's, I think, is one of the issues. You see in New York, you see in Milan, you see in London, they want to change some traffic space to more public, and then give to the people the opportunity to gathering together. Because in the end, why we made cities? No? The city was a dream of humanity, no? To living together. No? We call comune, no? Because it means common. We want to stay together. No? This was the major idea. Then the city became a nightmare. No? Why we see in the city now is, I mean, London traffic are killing me in this day. You know? It's terrible. No? How you can live in the city then every day you spend hours in the traffic? Then is the pollution. Milan is one of the worst pollution area of Europe. Then the people are sick. Then is a problem of economics problem for people. So why we transform the one most beautiful things we're creating as human, and we transform it in a major problem for humanity? So I think slowly, politicians slowly, but people asking more and more to share, to have a more quality in the public spaces. And I think that is the beginning of a change of what will be the future of a city. I will start with these things, you know. I don't believe anymore in a big plan. I think it's much more interesting to work in a small detail, no? Small piazza and square, then maybe you can open buildings or demolishing a building, make a piazza, and, you know, these kind of things. And fixing it. I say we take care about our city by this kind of intervention. No? Because the big plan almost all fail. No? And so maybe we need to reduce our ambitions too big and then work in small things. No?
But you said something really pertinent there, and that is about people asking for something better, which means that we're talking about the community and the citizen participation.
Yeah.
But what do you think enables these citizens to ask for the right things or the right questions or put the right kind of pressures? And is there a role that architects or architecture schools or institutions like the RIBA have in that sort of a creation of awareness, discourse, language?
Well, it's an educational process also, no? How to educating also architects able to listen what people say. You know, I come from a country where for many, many years the architects speaking between them a language that nobody else understands, you know? Which is a big mistake, you know, because we don't design for ourselves, or we design for the others. But I think in the last period of time, this kind of reaction of people, they creating a committee almost against something, no? Then I saw many times, you know, the hospital in Cremona. It's a competition, then everybody was agree. And then now, from yesterday, there was a committee against no hospital. And they're creating a big discussion, but not because they're against the hospital, because nobody listened them before. The people want to be listened. You need to listen people, no? Maybe, I don't want to say the committee, they designed the building, that's not the point, but sometimes, from my experience, the people are against because they are not involved, they don't know what's going to happen, they don't know what transformation may change their life, they worried about it. And I think when the rule, I'm not sure the architect are able to do that, but it's a rule of an architect and the politician to talk to people. But we live in a period of time that everybody talk and nobody listen. How you can dealing with this problem if you don't listen people? I don't say they're right, but I think we are in a situation that we need to have the patience to understand, listen, and then make an action, and then make a decision. But now we see many times, then we make a decision, then we talk with people, and people are not stupid, no? They want to be part of this, no? And I think this is what we're missing in the last time. Is the problem of all democracy, no? This kind of a participation, because every country is where democracy, there's a lot of protest. Because maybe we are not able to build a honest relationship with citizens about their city. I know we need to make a decision, but sometimes if we want to do participation, democratic participation, you need to do it. And do it is difficult because involve time, involve listening, then maybe you need expectation. But I mean, it's a very stupid, simple example, but kids are not, you know, it's easy to talk with kids. You know. But you talk with kids about their school. They have so many ideas. Sometimes I feel I don't really understand schools because the kids tell me what to do, no? And they do so simple things that maybe I can't see because I'm an architect, I'm designing building in a proper way. Then kids then tell you something very simple and very useful. So I think sometimes you always, I mean, it's our role to design, and I think that's very important. But I think sometimes listen, I give another level of complexity, you know, because the ideas, you know, we talk about the sharing knowledge. Well, this is a part of the story. Sharing knowledge, sharing opinion, if you really want to be a full democracy. It doesn't work too much, but it's the only way to do it, no? And I think it's something the architect need to do it. But it's not only the fault of architect. Sometimes it's the politicians that are not so good, no? Well, I say almost no good.
But we can do what's in our power and in our capacity.
Yeah.
So as a studio and as a practice MCA, how do you inculcate listening? How do you do that within the studio when you're working on a project?
But that is a method of work, you know, you do that, you know, you go talk with client and then talk with the community. Sometimes projects are very sensible, then you really need to talk with that community. And now politicians know they need to create a dialogue, if not, you cannot do it, you know. So I think it's become more and more often than is a part of, you know, it's a part of the process. You know, there's a period of time that you need to do it, that you need to take some conclusion and then go on. So, but I find quite natural to do it, you know. What I'm saying all the time, we are the designer. We design things. We are listened. And we try to use that information to make our better buildings. No? I think everybody have a role in the table. No? So it's a participation process, but everybody need to keep in their rules. No? Right. If not, it's another story. Yeah. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Which is funny also. No? I remember once I did a a new neighborhood in a small city, and then the client make a big mistake, call this operation a green way. The people says, why use an English word in Padova? Why we don't call in Italian? Already that creating a fighting. Then they invite me to talk with people, say, no, don't worry, nobody come. There were 600 people, really aggressive. The guy come up with a guitar and started me singing a song against the project. Another one said, where am I going to put my dog to make a pee? If you make the trees there at this building, I can't not see anymore that thing. So sometimes then you say it's a big stories, but then people have very simple things not to discuss. Where I put my dog, when I bring my dog to make a pee. I said, well, the lady, don't worry about that. And sometimes really this missing of capacity to listen people is what creating this amazing conflict. We live in a conflict time, and everybody is against everybody. That's our time. But there's a way to mitigate it, a little bit.
Yeah. On that note, before we move forward, are there any hands in the room? Does anybody want to ask, share, say something? Okay, whenever you feel ready. Oh yes, we've got someone here.
Hi Mario, thank you so much. It's so inspiring to see how you use the shape and the form to create this connection, this spiritual level, especially in the museum and the church. That is really, really inspiring. My question is, you mentioned you are a researcher in your practice, and I'm interested in how you use research to help your design, or how your research is going to lead to some innovation. If you could elaborate on that point a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we have a unit called Research and Development. There are 6 people. I did from beginning, when there was very small office, always one person in charge to looking for information, innovation, or like a data of information. I think we need an help in terms of research to inform the design team. Now it's a little bit bigger, but like we do a project like an hospital, and the unit start to research what's happened around the world about hospital, and what is the consequence for sickness people, and how we can improve in the technology in buildings. They don't make design, but they inform the team. And I think this was very important for the office, the quality of results. And then we keep in that unit because also in terms of technology and energy, like the first things happen is we have a design in this country. They start to study data, information about climate data, they give some social data. So I think this is a part of the beginning of the project. Then this informs the design, that we design things, and then verify what we are doing. And I'm always very keen that I'm not an engineer, of course, and we work with engineering, but I think every project in beginning, the mistake of design is always in the beginning. Then you try to catch the mistake during the process. So what we do with this unit also, first simulation in a very sketchy way. We do simulation about performance. We do simulation about how buildings work. We do simulation about daylighting. It's very in the beginning, but I think you can, in the beginning, you really understand what are the mistakes. I did a project for university, and we were so fascinating. We do this kind of a building with a box like this, and then we make a first analysis. It was a disaster. In terms of performance, it was terrible. It's never going to work. And then we change the project, and we do again another design to optimize the shape of the building to be more close to the result we want to achieve in terms of performance. So if you don't have the team to do that in the beginning, you make a mistake, you arrive in the end, and then you need to throw away everything and start again. So that's why the unit of research is very important. Like the work for Tekla was made by the school, the SOS, but also for the unit to research in the technique, to using earth wet is not easy because it's dry very quick, and then external part dry quicker than inside, then it's collapse. Then the shape is like this, and then it's wet, and then the curve, if you do too much, is collapse everything. So all the work and research was how to dealing with the thickness of the wall, and then what is the maximum angle. All these things is before the design, you know? And that's why it's important. Well, at least now it's office a little bit bigger, we can have these people, but I think it's very, very important to inform the design. The one the question for a lady there, I think is.
Yeah, Fumbi Adegbo. I had a question on whether you think it's very important in terms of your work with communities to remain humble as being the architect and being the expert, and where that kind of leads in terms of conversation and learning from the people who are actually in that space, in that community, because you've done a lot of work in terms of technical design. But when you do go to those rural areas or places that you've never been to, you are arriving as a stranger. So how important do you think that it is for the practice of architecture and being effective as a communicator in remaining humble?
Yeah. Well, as I said in the beginning, you need to use empathy to understand the place where you go to work, you know, and it happened many times we are collaborating with other people on site. When it's like the school in Abruzzo, you know, the circle is done with a group of young architects in the area because they know the way they're working on that place, and you know we did the work with this student, no? There's very young children. Then we said we want to present the work in the piazza of this little village, and then we said, well, maybe somebody come, maybe not. It was all the village came with a chair from home, no? They opened the chair and they sitting there, presenting the work, and it was a big discussion, no? But it was fair because we were done before, then it was people know each other, so you know, you're not arrived as a stranger, no? And I think this is another sense of what I call empathy, no? We need to understand where you're doing and also understand the logic, no? I mean, sometimes it's about a dialect, you know, they're using the right word, you know. I did a big mistake one in China. I'd be presenting a Chinese developer. Actually, we did with Brian, is there? You remember Ningbo, no? I think a little PhD buildings for technology, for sustainable technology, you know. And then, well, we designed an object, and then I thought it was like a dancer, you know, because it's a little bit tilting, and then because I misunderstand the culture, I've been presenting to this couple because this guy was a present to their wife. After give a big diamond, you know, he give up a building. You know, say, so 8 million, I give you this building, you know, for the lady, you know. And then because I thought it was a dancer, you know, just make a relationship between the shape of the building, and then I make a little video, I took it on the internet, and it was a dancer, almost naked with the veil, you know, and then take away the veil, and it was the ladies run out of the room, shocked, because you never saw the Chinese naked body, you know. And then it was a diplomatic accident. The lady would not come back to the meeting, you know. She was offended. You know, I say, well, you see how you make a mistake if you don't understand the culture. You know? It's a little bit thing. Then she back. I was sorry for a long time. But I canceled the video forever. But you know, this thing, if you don't understand, you can make a very big mistake. You know, you clash with the culture. I thought it was a fantastic, poetic things, and it was not. So, at least I not lost the job. Actually, we did properly, but was there to losing the financial investment by the client for this naked woman dancing. No, and that's happened if you don't know exactly what to do it. Okay.
But from that point of culture, I also wanted to go back to something that you kept referring to, and which seems to be an important tenet in your practice, and that's the understanding of beauty. You spoke about beauty a couple of times, and clearly the way you're looking at beauty is that beauty is also a function in this sense, right? So is there something that you could expand on? That you said somewhere that we need to adapt the idea of beauty as per our times. And could you share something on that through the duration of your practice, how your idea of beauty has evolved?
Well, I don't have a very clear idea about what is my idea for beauty, but you know, there are some fundamentals, you know, like when things are right, they stay for life. When things are too fashion, they just go very fast out of the market, you know. So I think it's the deepest of the way you design things, make these things stay forever or a long time, you know. Because we are living in a time that it's so easy to be fashionable, but then if you follow the fashionable, every year is a fashionable buildings, you know, every year is a fashion clothes, and it is something that you never can be able to follow. But there are some fundamental principles. The building is made for this reason, and then you recognize the reason why, and then, of course, it's an aesthetical result too. But I think when the reasons are clear and useful, I think that stay longer. They are out of this fashion time, no? And well, there's many examples that buildings we love from history, they're still very contemporary, you know, because they're solid, you know, there's good reason to do it, you know. I always invite you to see one of my best buildings, which I like it, which is a cathedral in Ortigia in Syracuse. I'm sorry, I come from Italy and I like history, but there are also many contemporary buildings, I love it. But this one is very particular, because we talk about using and reusing material and how using buildings in history. But you go to Ortigia, I invite you to watch on the internet. It was a Magna Grecia, and is a cathedral. Before was a Greek temple, Dorico, very simple. Then the Roman arrived and they changed something. Then the Christian arrived, they are not demolished because there are already columns there. Well, just closing between columns, they make a church. Then the Muslim arrive and they make a mosque, but they don't demolish, they're just adding a minaret, they change a little bit the shape. Then the Muslim went away, and then Barocco arrived, and then they stuck another facade, and it's a very Barocco. So you go inside, it's through the Barocco, through the Muslim, through the Roman, through the Christians, to the Greek, in all the same building. So when we talk about using and reusing, I think we need to go to see that building, to see a history of 2,500 time, and it's still there. They never throw away anything. No? If you go to San Marco Church in Venice, then you're watching careful the buildings. You can see there's no one piece of the buildings the same. Yeah. All columns different, all marble is different, because the Venetian went to Istanbul. They take everything from Istanbul. They lose the war, but they take this demolished Istanbul, they put it on a ship, and then they build a church in Venice. If you go there to look at that, you really see how in the time people, they never throw away, because make a column is very expensive. It's very hard. So they're using, reusing, and make a beautiful buildings. So we talk about something that we did for centuries. So now we talk about some little things. But I think some example give you what means reuse and using material for another life. I advise you to see, because it's very exciting. Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. I'm KJ Willett. I just want to touch on the lifespan of buildings.
Sorry?
The lifespan of a building, okay. Modern building, and I think you've referenced to offices have about 50 years lifespan. Yeah. Is that enough in terms of sustainability? Is there?
Why not? It would be better if it stay longer, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
No? But you know, in some market, a building, office building, 30 years they demolish and rebuild. No? In some place like US, they do maybe 15 years old. And because we need to adapting our buildings to the new rules, I always see that for like a earthquake regulation and performance. Now what they do now, also in New York, they don't demolish all the building, they just take away the facade and recladding and keeping this concrete shell as a part of the existing buildings. No? But like in Milan, there are some buildings, there are not enough space between floors, no? And they need to demolish. But that was only an example to tell you that the point is not about only performance, it's about material. That was the goal of this picture, to show in that how much material are part of the emissions on building construction.
In terms of the research you've done with materials, we know that enforced concrete does not have a long lifetime. Are the new building materials coming in? What is the future, or what do you think the future is bringing in terms of new materials, creating further longevity for buildings?
Well, I think you can see now in the construction field there are many material also for primary construction. Like a lot of steel comes from recycling steel. It doesn't come from the natural material, no? They were using the steel of aluminium, glass. Many glass is part of the recycling. So I think the industry understands and they need to find a way to reusing material and not using primary material. I think this is the goal. But also, I was talking this morning about concrete. There will be more and more difficult for concrete company because the CO2 emission is very high. So there will be enough. Maybe carbon tax will be not enough because it will be too expensive. I mean, concrete can be not so expensive. Mm-hmm. And we're working with a concrete company to reduce in terms of use, like Tekla, no, using 80% of earth and 20% of concrete, or balancing between 60 and 40 or 70 to see the resistance of material reducing in terms of quantity. Maybe it's more specific, but less. And I think that is one of the direction of the new material. For interior design, there's a lot of material come already from recycling. I think tiles, no? Many company tiles are 100% recycling material. They're not taking any more material from quarries. I mean, also, I think VitrA do recycling porcelain, and like we did now a project in Milan, and all the carpet is made by fishing net from company they're collecting, and they do carpet. So I think there's more and more interesting from industry in a small, big scale to reduce the impact of material by using recycling on natural material. I mean, we are in the beginning. What I'm thinking that we are not yet start. We're just the beginning of a new way, but it's really the beginning.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. With that, thank you so much for your question. Thank you for your participation, everyone. And just to conclude, Mario, thank you again so much for sharing your wisdom, your team's work. And I think sustainability, of course, can have so many different interpretations, but one thing that can truly ground our future or the idea of futuring is empathy. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing about that. Thank you, RIBA, and thank you, VitrA, for organizing this. And have a great evening, everyone. We'll be around. I think there are drinks. So please, Mario will be here for at least a little bit. So please feel free to walk up and talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.